Welcome to Politics of Food. I'm Patrick Noone.
And I'm Patrick Roseman, and we're here to talk about the politics of the food industry and how important it is for the country and what Patrick and I are doing to facilitate a much bigger, profitable business for this country.
And I'm from the retail side, having spent almost 40 years in retail.
And I've been dealing with these retailers like Patrick for years, and I'm from the beaten up manufacturing side.
But we're still good friends, right?
We are, and we're going to be all over the world. So Patrick's in Vancouver today. I'm in Melbourne today, but next week I'm in Sydney. And every week, Patrick and I are going to be somewhere else around the world talking to CEOs, food manufacturers, and retailers all around the world.
Welcome to Politics of Food. G'day, Patrick. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Where are you today, Patrick?
I'm in wet Vancouver today. We've had some rainstorms up here, but I'm here at my wife's and mine house in Port Moody in Vancouver, which is a beautiful area of the world, full of parks and natural wildlife like bears and cougars. So
Cougars. Wow.
Yeah, we're having fun.
As long as they don't bite, that's the most important thing.
And you're in Melbourne today.
I'm actually in sunny Brisbane. It's warm. I've left the cold of 14 degrees and drizzle in Melbourne, and I'm up here in Brisbane with Grove Juice, one of our founding members of Food and Agri, and we'll be interviewing Greg Quinn, the managing director of Grove, and it's around 26 degrees today in Brisbane. It's lovely.
Beautiful. Well, I'm really excited to be talking to Greg today. I think he's going to bring a lot of insight into food production in Australia, which is of course our cause, and what we'd like to talk about. And he's a very successful businessman. He's got a great little empire going there with Grove Juice, and it's vertically integrated. So from the tree to the supermarket shelf and to the export container. So we're going to find out a lot about how he runs that business, his impediments to driving the business, and how Australia can continue to grow the food export business. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. They're vertically integrated, wonderful business, great people, and a good example of what's possible with good strategy and excellent execution within the food and agri space. But on a note, also, food and agri combined employs over 800,000 people in this country, and it's worth about $220 billion. So today we're going to talk to Greg about what are the challenges he's facing and how can we accelerate that growth? How can we improve value-added exports? And, the government needs to support food and agri way more than it's doing, and we need a focused approach, as we've talked in the past.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything you've just said. I think that, we are the lucky country because we're lucky to have this wonderful environment where we can grow anything from the north of the country to the south. But I sense, and perhaps my frustration, is that we're almost too lucky. In other words, we're not planning to be really great exporters and providing great jobs for our people. We're more or less, luckily, we're growing oranges, or we're growing beans, or we're growing wheat, and we just happen to have export markets that would take them. But my sense is that we could really do a much better job exporting, becoming the food basket of the country, if we streamlined what we're doing and really focused on that industry and how we can grow things quicker, faster, and more efficiently. Because I'm looking around the world, and I was doing a lot of research on the citrus business actually around the world, and there is a shift going on of who the suppliers are around the world, and which countries are now stepping into the new export businesses that are being created by shrinking supply. So, for example, in Florida, the land prices are so high there that you can't grow orange groves anymore. And Florida is where most of the U.S. orange juice production comes from, because you got Mar-a-Lago now, and Mar-a-Lago is an expensive property, right? So you take down the trees, you build condos, but who's going to fill in all that gap? Is it going to be Australia? I sense from the Citrus Australia year report that they've focused on doing that. But as a country, there's opportunities like these coming up everywhere. And other countries like Brazil, South Africa, Chile, are all stepping into that void to help supply along. Whereas I think we could really grab those markets if we operated as an entity, as a country with a great focus on driving export business.
Well, it's all about export growth. There's only this week it was announced that the country has now hit 28 million people. Where on global scale we're very small, but we want to. My vision is to have more value-added exports around the world. I want to be able to go to a retailer in the UK, the US, anywhere in the world, and see an Australian value-added product on shelf, similar to what you can see across the board in Costco, Aldi, Coles, and Woolworths in this country. And if we can do that, if we can focus on value adding, we can significantly create more value in our channel and our industry. Where combined food and agri is $220 billion in revenue, generating 800,000 direct jobs. So let's talk about how we can export more. Let's talk about how we can export more value add. But in order to do that, we need a government that's really focused on fine-tuning that streamlining, as you're talking about, Patrick. And we need a Minister of Food and Agriculture and a department that can have it as a one-stop shop, rather than this Where's Wally, where you want to get a grant for whatever it is and you've got to go to 10 different departments to be able to do it. I think this streamlining will have a huge impact on the ability for the industry to get more focused and deliver a significant improvement in value-added exports.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And we talk, and I'm really keen to hear what Greg has to say about this, because when I look at the duplication that we have at government level, I'm not even talking about council or shire or city level. If you look at the federal government, I think that Greg probably deals with, my guess, between 6 and 10 ministries on different occasions for different things, from finance right down to the Ministry of Agriculture. But there's no Ministry of Food, right? All these people have little pieces of the pie that you have to sort of run around and chase and get things done. And then I was looking through, and I haven't really gone through the New South Wales and the Queensland government level. The ministers are involved, perhaps also in agriculture or food production. And there's an endless number of ministers and assistant ministers that have little pieces of the pie everywhere, which doesn't include your local member that probably wants to be involved as well, right? So we really are, in some ways, over-governed and under-focused, if you like, at a level where we can drive this business, we can drive Australian jobs, drive Australian exports around the world.
Well, that you make a really good point there, Patrick, because productivity in this country has been declining, and we need to streamline processes. We need to take out bureaucracy, and I think a Ministry of Food and Agriculture will help to do that. And productivity is something that we need to really improve on, particularly in food manufacturing, where a lot of the manufacturers have got old kit, old equipment. And we need to modernise and improve our efficiencies so that we can become as a country even more competitive. Now, the Europeans have been doing this for years. They've been subsidising food manufacturing and agriculture. And, you can go to Coles and Woolworths and Aldi and see a whole lot of European products on shelf. The good thing about what Don Farrell's done is, we've exported record numbers of agricultural products in the last 12 months. But we need more value-added exports. Now, we've got a trade agreement with free trade agreement now with the EU. EU is the largest trading bloc in the world, bigger than individually than China and bigger individually than the US. So, we've also got one with the UK. My vision is for us to have products in the UK in Tesco and Asda and Sainsbury's and Morrison's and Marks and Spence to have an Australian product on shelf. And now some manufacturers have done a pretty good job of that, and there is a handful that have been successful. But we need many more products on shelf, and we've got the capacity in this country to export so much more. You know, I'd like to see food and agri double. I'd like to see it $400 to $500 billion, and that's possible. We've got the land, we've got the manufacturing capacity to do that. We just need the enabler through less bureaucracy, more focused approach, and let's export to the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know, we've got the land, the climate, and we've got different levels of climate up and down the east and central coast and western coast of the country. We can grow things almost all year long. When you talk about berries, for example, other things. But the other thing we have is, as an island in the southern hemisphere, we've also off-season to the northern hemisphere. So that opens up huge areas of fresh food that can be made here or grown here and shipped to those northern climates that will be off-season. But I think we're being beaten to the punch by the South Americans. I think living here in Vancouver, we're pre-summer, so the local produce hasn't come out yet. But almost everything you see here is from Chile, from Argentina, from Mexico, and yet it's probably ready to be picked or harvested in Australia last month or the month before, which can also come here. So I think there's huge opportunities for the North American market. But in Europe, when I looked at and I'm focused on citrus this week, I went through the Citrus Australia website. No European countries in our top 10 exports. I could be wrong, but I didn't see any European countries there. I suppose Egypt and Morocco and Spain are all exporting to the other European countries. But a really focused approach from us, we may be able to crack that market for things like oranges or other farm products that are grown, like I said, out of season. I note that Japan's our biggest export market, I think, for fresh oranges. But you know, Korea's got a lot of people there. Taiwan's got a lot of people.
You know, we should be doing and being much more aggressive in our ability to build relationships with these countries. We should be doing a lot more exporting of fresh fruit and vegetables. Well, let's get Greg in, Greg Quinn, and we'll interview him now. I'm here with Greg Quinn, the managing director of Grove Juice, and Patrick, you're in.
I'm in Vancouver, sunny Vancouver, or not so sunny today.
So Greg is a member of Food and Agri Australia and managing director of Grove Juice. So tell us about your organisation, Greg.
Thanks, Patrick and Patrick. Grove Juice, we're a vertically integrated fresh juice and farming business based in Australia. In Queensland, we've got 3 factories spread across Brisbane, Warwick in Queensland, and the Riverina, and we've got farming within northern New South Wales and central New South Wales. We're a mixed farming base from growing cotton, grains, and citrus, and we've been on a program now for the last 15 years in looking at high value uses, which we started early. We didn't want to gamble against droughts anymore. We saw that permanent water was where the game was, and we were looking at, once we have that, what is the highest value use per megalitre for that water? And we went from trialling almonds to a number of other things, compared that to cotton, and we found the temperature band at Moree and Forbes and the growing of citrus was significantly more effective for us. We're machine harvesting, and the only ones in the world machine harvesting citrus, because we've developed our farms that way. That reduces our cost by 50%. And we're using, on a per return megalitre of water, we're doing half of almonds and probably 10 times less than cotton for citrus. So for us, that return, and then how do we then grow the front end of that business? We wanted to, rather than be a commodity producer, wanted to control our own destiny, hence the growth of the Grove Juice brand, and the vertically integrated part of the business goes in sync with, I guess, our business.
So, yeah, that's wonderful. What's your biggest challenge at the moment your business is facing today?
cost to operate. It is the number one challenge is the cost to operate. There's significant market opportunities for a business like us that is vertically integrated. We're getting hammered from end to end within our supply chain because of costs. Some of that is short term, which comes from things like the Iranian war. Other things are structurally and fundamental. And for us, is that cost to operate is having a real impact on our business.
Yeah.
And that comes from, I'll add to that, that comes from whether it's labour, to energy, to plastics, to fuel, to fertilizers, to everything you think about that goes into farming, into agribusiness, into freight, into logistics, into conversion, into getting a high quality product in the consumer's hands.
Are those costs higher than what, the government's publishing around inflationary numbers?
Absolutely.
To give us an example.
Yeah, to be brutally honest, it's a bowl of spaghetti what the government, how they perceive inflation. They're saying it's 4 to 5%. I can tell you the real cost within our business is 20 to 40%, and higher in manufacturing. And so that is real pain. And then you add to that, I'll give you a really good example from an input cost perspective, what we call the John Deere index. And we buy tractors, every single farmer does, but it shows you the real probably comparative to inflation. Between 2000 and 2021, say 20 years, the average inflation rate, and we've seen it via dealing with supermarkets, dealing with our business, everything like that, averaged about 2.7%. And that's over a 20-year period, interlinked with government inflation.
Which is consistent with what the government is saying over that period, 20 years.
And within the band they target.
Yeah.
If not better than the band they target.
Yeah.
John Deere tractors were running at 3.95%. So you could kind of say relatively in sync.
Yeah.
That goes from 2022 to now, 4 years, the government inflation's running in their mind at 4 to 5%.
Yeah.
John Deere 13.5%.
Wow.
So that just shows you within
almost 3 times.
Yeah. If not more, within 4 years. And that is real inflation of inputs that are coming from a supply chain outside of our country.
Yeah.
And don't get me started on, you add all of that 20 to 40% inflation, and then you have Fair Work Commission coming out and saying we want to raise the minimum wage by 6%. We want to raise labour rates by 5%, 5.5%. And then you've got consumers telling us we can't afford, and quite rightly, we can't afford to pay more for the product on shelf.
Yeah.
And then you have all these additional compliance costs. And I don't know where people want us to shove this cost within our business.
Yeah, I think one of the things you said was the compliance costs. There's so many levels of government that expect you to pay for different audits on your facilities. Can you just talk a little bit about that, Greg?
Yeah, I would call it, it's a bit of a circus, to be honest. So we get audited by state health, federal agencies do audits, the retailers do audits, and that's not just as a consortium. You're getting individual audits from all the retailers who we deal with. You're then getting audited again by export authorities, and all of that is basically to verify the same HACCP accreditation, the same food safety accreditation, the same paperwork. So we're going through 5 to 6, for just that one area, 5 to 6 audits, if not more, per year.
So if we could have a standardise across everybody, and we could agree on it, and have less churn and less cost of compliance, that would be a good thing.
Huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. And you think about the man hours that takes, not just about man hours, but business distraction. For us, the amount of audits we have to comply with every year and the amount of agencies we have to comply with every year
for
would
productivity.
be millions.
Good example.
Be millions of dollars.
Good example for productivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want a strong audit that demonstrates the quality of your business as well, right? So just because you have less audits doesn't mean the quality of the audit will be worse. It'll be actually, you want to be able to go to export customers or domestic retailers and say, this is Grove and we're number one on this audit. So it's not so much the quality of the audit, it's the quantity of the audits that are ongoing all the time. And then just to demonstrate, what's the cost of an audit? I mean, how many thousands of dollars does it cost you to go through an audit procedure?
Oh, lead time could take us a week of lead time and management people distraction. Let's call that 5 to 6 people. You think about a weekly cost of that on cost, then you add the audit itself, and then you add the distraction and for the business in order to meet those audits and deal with that. And if you've then got you have to fix things or have some, like you get non-conformances because you haven't dotted the I across the T in a certain area that they pick up, which is absolutely fine. We get that, but it would be into the hundreds of thousands of dollars of cost for us in terms of people focus, business focus, things like that.
What do you think the federal government could do to support our industry, food and agri? Have you got any ideas of?
I would say they probably need. We talk about an ag minister and that. I think we need less authorities. We need more consolidated thinking in the way we approach things. It needs to be a lot more streamlined. We've got federal, state, local. Then you throw on all the statutory authorities that sit outside that, and I couldn't tell you how many statutory authorities. We talk about FSANZ, we talk about Trade Skills Australia, we talk about everything like that. All that's doing is basically setting up authorities with bureaucrats to take away the decision-making of politicians. And for me, they've got to really streamline that. They've got to probably cull a lot of that and get a lot more streamlined in how they deal with things.
So a food and agri combined ministry with less bureaucracy, you'd be in favour of supporting that?
Absolutely,
yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I think the other big thing is we talk about costs and decision-making and things like that. The big thing that's missing and is gone is productivity and innovation.
Yeah.
It's funny, the government comes out and talk about that private businesses there's growth in investment at the moment, but then they discount that by saying, it's in data centers. Like that's got nothing to do at this point in time with my business. That's not money going into productivity and innovation. We're getting thrown all these costs. For me, you talk about $220 billion. What I think we need is, let's say we want a $2 billion innovation investment fund for agribusiness. That's less than 1% of your $220 billion.
Yeah.
Streamline that over the next 10 years, and that is going into bigger commercial-ready projects.
Create jobs.
Yeah, not
value-added exports.
Greenfield. Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, we can focus that money on value-added exports.
Absolutely.
We could have it targeted that $2 billion. Yeah.
That's exactly what they should be doing. It should be a $2 billion fund. Link it to 1% of agribusiness production, and then that is a better innovation. That's a better investment. Get out of the way. Get investment into these projects. That's going to drive productivity. That's going to drive a hell of a lot more for a business like us.
So you support a food and agri summit at Canberra to talk about these initiatives? Would you support that?
If it's not going there as a talk fest, and it's actually a summit that listens to the food and agri businesses and agricultural people there, and is not about writing another green paper, white paper, blue paper, bloody fairyland strategy, and let's get a task force, then absolutely we'd be interested. But
right.
I think it's got to be on the policies of both major parties first. I mean, we've got to get them to think about this as a strategic industry for the growth. Because I'll fantasize a little bit. You know, if we have a strong growing citrus and apple and pear and cucumber industry or whatever, and we're able to buy more John Deere tractors in Australia, maybe we start thinking them there. Maybe that's another way that that flows downhill to other manufacturing businesses as well.
Well, you look at what we could benchmark the $2 billion innovation fund for agribusiness, benchmark that to the US, UK, and Israel. That's where a lot of, if you think about productivity and innovation, those countries have funds available and significant funds being streamlined into agribusinesses end to end in order for bigger projects, better ready investments. We're not talking early stage ideology. We're talking about businesses and manufacturing and agribusinesses that's really going to drive productivity and export value creation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a terrific initiative.
I don't think it's hard.
I think it's a terrific initiative. And I know the government's got a National Reconstruction Fund, and I know that they've put some money towards food and agri as part of that. But I think we need, because our industry is so large, combined $220 billion, we really need a focused approach for our industry, as Greg is saying. And I think that would be an enormous thing that we could put together for both bipartisan, both major parties, and come together and have a proper discussion about it rather than a talk fest.
Absolutely.
And put something together for 2027.
I think it's a strategic policy that a country has to adopt, I think, to start with. But when you think about it, I mean, if you call and I don't mean to denigrate the idea of a talk fest, but you're going to get 16 or 18 organizations, including the ministers, in a room, and how are you going to get them to agree on anything? I mean,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have doctors and professors from different specialities. The ministers, none of the ministers have really worked on farms that I can see. I mean, there's probably some experience in there, and that's not to denigrate their contribution to running the government. But what it is saying is they don't have the speciality or the insight into devising a proper agriculture and food production strategy for the country. And so it almost means that they have to do the work as much as anyone and get into their heads that this is a strategic industry and we need to drive it.
I think we need to, it needs to be cut through. It needs to be serious and cut through. There's no point getting everyone together that has self-interest and has this scientific model that they've developed that's going to produce something, and then we organise committees and authorities and all of this and white papers, blue papers, strategies that just go absolutely nowhere. And then it just really comes back to the private business having to survive, really.
So it's food. So it's focused on food and agri value add.
Yep.
So the value add
through the supply chain.
Yep. So it's food and agri value add.
Yep.
And it unlocks $2 billion of investment funded by the government.
Yep.
And supporting value added food and agri products in the market.
Yeah, well, it's going to create more regional jobs. It's going to do all of that. Like labour is a big issue for us in particular regional areas. It's a huge issue. And you look at that, we run into problems all the time, even with Trade Skills Australia. Like you talk about immigration of people, we're looking to bring in managers out into our regional areas because people 16 to 25 are not there. And we've got good qualified skilled managers looking to come, whether from South Africa or somewhere like that, and they're being rejected on the basis of not having a university degree. And for me, that's again a fundamental problem.
So the regional areas. So you've got factories in Warwick.
Yep.
In regional Queensland. In Leeton, in New South
Yeah,
Wales.
we've got all our farms in regional New South Wales.
Are you finding that it's hard to get quality staff in those areas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Particularly quality people with skills.
Yeah.
And also on top of that, youth. You talk about youth engagement, youth employment. It is a major problem. And you look at that globally, it is a huge problem that's growing fast.
And your jobs would be manufacturing jobs that traditionally in skilled labour would be paying more than the average award wage.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about creating more jobs in regional Australia through this fund and creating more value-added food and agri business and creating more value-added jobs. Really.
Absolutely. Spot on.
800,000 jobs are created in food and agri process. I mean, that's huge. So we can create more jobs and get more value and more revenue by this supporting this type of initiative, and productivity is key.
It's got to be all to do with productivity. because costs are killing us as a business.
Yeah. And the benefits flow downhill from there, from jobs to people working in the bank to, internet technicians, et cetera, et cetera. Everything is going to be flowing from that basic premise of making stuff and selling it.
So let's talk about productivity, and let's talk about Savans, the regulatory requirements.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how we could streamline some of those. Greg, have you got any ideas?
I'll give you a perfect example on Fazans, which again is another statutory authority set up that it can be a law unto their own, that the politicians have it takes the decision making away from them. You think about the star rating for food businesses, and that sits from a health rating on products. That is really just the complexity behind that is out of control. It's algorithm on top of algorithm. We're measuring nutrients, not food. And you can't measure products, say, in the juice category versus the milk category versus other things. It's actually the algorithms are only working about your category. So people walk into a shop, they're looking at it, the rating from a food perspective. Is this food 5-star healthy? When it's actually got all the algorithms measuring nutrients and other things that are totally different for your different inputs to your different products and things like that. I'll give you a really simple example. Fresh Australian orange juice, oranges that are cultivated and farmed on our farm, no additives, nothing like that, go straight to our factory, processed, nothing in it, straight into a bottle, fresh as a daisy, scores lower than a diet soft drink in the health star rating.
Amazing.
You tell me, does that meet the pub test to you?
Not the pub I drink at.
Does that tell you there's a broken system somewhere?
Because there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of additives in a cola like that. Yeah.
Fresh orange juice was discovered 300 BC by Alexander the Great. This is not a manufactured product, and it just does not meet the pub sniff test on basic things. And this, to me, again, is this whole statutory authority craziness running off with their own motivation and just totally misses the ball mark.
Well, we've done a global research in food innovation and food trends, and in Japan, they've changed their food regulations, and now in Japan you can actually make a health claim on a food item. So in Japan, if you do a clinical trial, you can and justify your health claim on a food. You can actually now put that health claim on a food item. It's revolutionized the food manufacturing in Japan, and it's something that I would like to discuss at this food summit in Canberra for food and agri manufacturers, because I think, nourishment, as you say, and nutrition, it's all about food. And there's, GLP-1s and weight loss. It's not about nutrition. And, we are nourishing the country. We have food and agri and eating well, and we want to nourish the country. And we need to simplify things, and we need to do some changes. Food security, how that's something that is very topical at the moment in our industry, with geopolitical issues and potentially disrupted supply chains. What challenges would you see in food security at the moment, Greg?
Depends which way you want to talk about it. Everybody at the moment talks about food security as if we're one bad season away from starvation. Australia is not running out of food. Let me get that right. We produce more than we can consume, and a hell of a lot more. It's totally not where we're going. We have floods, we have droughts, we're resilient, and still we haven't had a starvation issue within Australia. I think for us, the real risk is availability, and that's all input driven.
Imported ingredients.
Absolutely. Imported products, everything. As I said before, whether it's coming from fuel that goes into resin, that goes into plastics, that goes into freight, that goes into energy, that goes into everything, that is when you have real instability in your supply chain. It's about availability. It's not about security. So we've got to get away from this whole food security debate. It's got to be about this whole reliability of your supply chain globally, and unfortunately, the significant reliance that Australia has on the globe in terms of the way it does business.
We import a lot of ingredients. The food industry and we import a lot of ingredients. And I know that there's been some, particularly in the ag space, on fertilizers, that's been an issue. There's been some challenges around ingredients for food manufacturers. So we need to be more resilient and we need to be more self-sufficient in those areas that we do import into the country.
Yeah. So, Australian manufacturing is significantly exposed to foreign inputs.
Yeah.
From equipment to ingredients, right?
All of the above, end to end.
End to end. Yeah.
I think that that's another good argument for a food ministry who could take these kind of ideas and put it together as a policy, right? We, like I said at the start, I was talking to Patrick, we are the lucky country, but we're very lucky in a lot of ways. And we're not really too focused on shoring up a resilient market in every area. I mean, just look at the diesel issues we're having right now with Trump and the Strait of Hormuz. Look at the fertilizer issues. Now we've got food ingredient issues because of the shipping. So I think there's another good reason there to have one ministry working on all that. And I would just add one more thing, going back to FARANZ. I was just thinking, which minister looks after FARANZ? I don't even know which department that's in.
I think it's under the Department. I think it's under the Department of Health.
Yeah, probably. Sorry, Health.
Department of Health. It's yet another one. So if you want to export, you've got to go to DFAT, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. If you want to talk about industry, you've got to go to the Minister for Industry. If you want to go to SAVANZ, which is our regulatory requirement, you've got to go to the Department of Health. So, we'd like to put all that under one and have that. But, we're here in Queensland, and Greg's just going to pop in and show one of the products. Greg, so this is Grove Juice's. Greg was talking about there's nothing in it, there's nothing taken away. It's just straight off the vine, so off the tree. So that's their product. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you so much.
Where can we buy that right now? Is that in the two big supermarket chains?
No, you can buy that in all the major retailers, Coles, Woolworths, all the independents.
And by buying Grove Juice, you're supporting local manufacturing, Australian-owned businesses, and creating jobs and Australian-made. That's what we want to talk about. We want to support Australian-made manufacturing.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Greg, for coming on the show today. That's awesome to hear from you and your exciting business and all the opportunities that we've got.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.